Welcome back to Simplify with Ryan. I'm your host, I'm Ryan, and I like to talk about all things financial independence. In today's discussion, we're going to be talking about the general sentiment around the marketplace right now. We're going to be talking about the housing market, we're going to be talking about stocks, we're going to be talking about other general investment, economy, sentiment type questions. And I'm going to share with you some of the tips that I use to keep myself centered during a time like this. It's a pretty volatile period. Lots of things are happening. It's hard to make sense of what's going on. And in those times in particular, I think it's really important to keep a few principles in mind. We'll keep this video pretty short. There are 3 things that I like to keep in mind, and I use an acronym to help me remember these 3 steps. But before we get to that, I want to remind you that in a previous video, I discussed the Fear and Greed Index. Now, at the time when I released this video, which I will link on screen, the Fear Index was pointing in the direction of greed. Now, that usually happens when market sentiment is excitable. People are excited about where the future might be going. They think they can make money, and so sentiment is strong. People are putting their money in the market, and they're not fearful of any outcome. So again, we are now in a period of fear. That has a lot to do with the change in administration, the tariffs that President Trump has put on multiple countries, which has yo-yoed back and forth dramatically in the last week. We've seen Canada and Mexico come to some degree of concessions with President Trump. They've made an agreement, and so both countries are bringing additional forces to their respective borders in an attempt to bolster the security at those borders. But in 30 days, there will be another meeting of the minds whereby some agreement will have to be formed for a longer term period of time. In the case of China, nothing has happened except for a tit-for-tat competitive tariff situation, and so we should be seeing some of those prices increase for goods that we're importing from China soon. All of this creates a great degree of uncertainty, and that leads largely to where we find ourselves now, clearly in the fear index. Now, you might be thinking, well, this is impacting my investments. How should I be changing my strategy in this time period to accommodate for all these fluctuations? The simple answer is nobody knows what's going to happen with any of these individual items. And so spending a lot of time trying to predict the future, trying to time the market, trying to sell at the perfect time and then buy at the perfect time, in my view, is really just that, a waste of time. You don't want to be wasting your time thinking about those types of things, especially when the volatility is so great right now that your emotions are deeply tied to your actions. And in instances where our emotions are controlling our behaviors, we sometimes, I know in my case, don't make the best decisions. And in particular, the best decisions with money. And so the acronym that I use is simple. It's AND. I use the word "and" with a question mark after it. If somebody comes to me with a concern, they say, Ryan, I'm really concerned about this tariff situation and how it's impacting the market. I'm fearful and I'm thinking about selling some stocks and then holding on to my money. Now, my reaction to that is a simple and so what, basically. So the AND stands for 3 simple behaviors. The A is for automate behaviors. The first thing you want to do is automate your investing. You want to make sure that any revenue you have coming in is going to a specific place. And then with that revenue, it's parsed out into the investments that you want to make on a cyclical basis. I put in a certain amount of money into the market every week. It's like clockwork. I do it on a Thursday, and every Thursday, rain or shine, I'm putting that same dollar amount into the marketplace. I never consider selling, especially in times of volatility. And by automating this process, it takes away all the emotions. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to log in or check my account or do anything in particular that might jeopardize my emotional strength in a moment All I do is sit back and I don't worry about it. If you haven't automated your investments, whether that be in a cryptocurrency, in the stock market, in some other form of real estate investment or other type of investment, there are simple, easy ways to automate that behavior so that you don't have to be involved in that decision every time that that decision becomes available to you. Now, the second part of the "and" question for me is to not look at the news. "In" for me stands for no news. I don't read the articles that are coming out day to day. I have a Google algorithm around Google News. I use this daily to read some of the headlines, but in this algorithm, I really don't get a lot of the news that I'm interested in. It's really flashing headlines and things that the algorithm thinks I'm gonna like. And because I read a lot about personal finance, about investing, I get a lot of articles in this space. I see these articles. I used to read them all. I used to think I was getting a lot of value out of them and I was learning from them. But at this point, there's a lot of speculation in all of these articles. There are a lot of theories that are shared. There's a lot of sentiment that could lead you down a path of making an emotional decision or an incorrect decision. Instead, I frame my long-term goals as my motivation. I decide what actions that I want to take to get me to that point, and I automate that behavior. So I first automate, I then avoid news at all costs. Now the D is also pretty similar and tied to no news, but it's a simple philosophy: don't panic. I don't panic. Whatever happens, I don't worry about it. I see things in the news. I know there's going to be a big hit to the market. I don't even look. So the D can also stand for don't look. But at the core of this phrase is the idea around not panicking when crazy things happen in the marketplace. Crazy things are bound to happen every year, all of the time. I see these events come and go, and they definitely make an impact on the marketplace. They'll affect real estate. They'll affect your investments. The key is to not make a big deal out of these instances. I am not so knowledgeable that I think I would make an effective day trader. I definitely don't know the innermost workings of the market and how things are actually functioning beyond a general sort of academic level. And because of this, I don't trust myself to make informed decisions when panic does arise. I would more than likely in these instances follow the general crowd sentiment because my emotions would be tied to this general dis-ease that might lead me down a path that wouldn't make much sense in the long run. So I automate my behavior, I don't look at the news, and I definitely do not panic when things go crazy. We're in a time, again, of fear right now, and fear is an emotion that often drives you to make really poor decisions. And so if you follow this simple algorithm, when you're getting worried, just look at yourself and say, and, shrug, and know that if you follow these 3 steps, you're likely to be fine. You're going to weather the storm. You certainly won't make it worse for yourself by doing these 3 things. And then you can reevaluate further down the line when you've had a chance to see how things play out and you feel a bit more comfortable making a decision if moves are necessary in your investment portfolio. I sure hope these tips are helpful for you. They've been really important for me as I've tried to become more financially independent over the last 10 years or so. If you found any value in these tips, please like the video. Throw a comment below. Maybe you have a couple of other behaviors that would help the group and you'd like to share those, so feel free to do so. Ask any questions, of course, as always. Thanks for joining. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd love to have you as a part of the community. And if not, that's fine too. I appreciate your support. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you in next week's video.